Hey, thanks so much for finding the video. Do us a favor. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe. And be sure to leave your comment. We love to interact. Enjoy the video. Saints, Bucks. I've been saying all week, Mike, that the Saints won the first two matchups because the Saints are better. How different is this Bucks team than the one the Saints faced the first two times?
They're a little healthier up front along the offensive line. Now, again, you did lose your starting right guard.
Right.
But that second game, you didn't have Marpet. And Ali Marpet's one of the best left guards in the game. Man, he's trying to help Donovan Smith. And Donovan, we've seen him play. I mean, he's a roller coaster player. But he did a pretty good job. Listen, I give him full credit against Chase Young. I thought he did a nice job. He got a little bit of help from Gronk now and then, but I think they're a team that has gotten a little bit more cohesive in the passing game with the receivers. But, they sort of look like the same team to me. Confidence lasts about as long as you get hit in the mouth. And then it's over with. Momentum is the same way. I hear it all the time, but it's not reality. And listen, when you get beat like what they've been beaten twice, it's in the back of your mind. I don't care what you say about, it ain't nothing. No, it is. It's in the back of your head. Matt, how many times up until last year we talked about, like, LSU, Alabama? And you're so hyped to win that game if you LSU. And you say, man, this is the year. And it didn't happen until 2019. And then finally you got it because you could match with them, personnel for personnel. I think I agree with you totally. They're the better football team all the way around. The big concern for me right now is you go in this game with a kicker that's a little bit shaky. And this time of year is not the time to go into a funk as a kicker because this is gonna be a closer game than the other two. And you're going to need Will Lutz to kick like Will Lutz has kicked in the past. And so that, to me, is a concern. But, man, there's all these stories. I did the kind of breakdown of this in 2017. You and I, it was the first show I did with it, was about teams playing each other 3 times in a season. And all I heard from people was, it's so hard, man. It's so hard to beat a team 3 times. You don't know what you're talking about. It's hard to win in the playoffs. That's what makes it hard. But since 1970, teams that have played 3 times in a season, on the 3rd time that team has won the first 2, they're 14 wins, 7 losses. Now, if you round that off, that's 67% winning percentage. So in 21 games, the team that has won twice wins it 14 of the 21.
Mm-hmm.
That tells you that's a false narrative. That's given out by lazy reporters or lazy commentators nationally that tell you that. Listen, when you play a team 3 times, that means you playing them in the playoffs.
Right.
So, yeah, it's a difficult game. All games in the playoffs are difficult. But it's a false narrative that it's almost impossible to do. The Saints did it in 2017. And again, you have an opportunity here. And the numbers tell you a total different story than what that national analyst might have told you on the air. Because he doesn't do any homework. He's a former player. He might look the right part. He sounds good. And it sounded great. But it's not reality. When you put that paper and that pen in and you look at the numbers, it's not correct. I just think the Saints are the better football team. That's why they haven't just won. They've smoked the Bucks the first 2 games. And I never saw Brady as frustrated. He didn't show it in game 2 because I think the game got out of hand so fast. But it was the first game of the year in the Dome. He was so frustrated. And there's a lot of people in the stands, so to speak, and so you could see it and almost just read it in his face about, come on, guys, what are y'all doing? It's the little things that we messing up on. If the Saints can jump on them early, can't tell me human nature doesn't tell you, God, you mean to tell me this is happening to us again? And it is in the back of your head. And I listen, people have wrote me, yeah, Mike, you might have the right numbers, but no team has beaten Tom Brady three times in a year. Okay. Oh, you got something there. The only thing I can tell you, and I'll flip the card on you, when I look across the field, I see Bruce Arians. I don't see Bill Belichick.
You're right. How many
think
teams had a chance to play Tom
Saints.
Brady 3 times in a season?
What's that?
How many teams have had a chance to play Tom Brady 3 times in a season?
Not many, put it to you that way. But my thing is, why Brady has got and it was a tag team championship, okay? There was no question that Bill and Tom, no matter the differences and what happened at the end, and listen, everybody's feelings sometimes gets hurt a little bit. In any relationship you have, you get your feelings hurt a little bit. That's what happened here with Belichick and Brady. I think both of them, their egos are like the size of the Gulf of Mexico. And so, come on, you're dealing with athletes and a coach that has done it like no one else in our lifetime. And so, yeah, you're going to have a healthy ego there. And then Brady's like, you know what, man, I'm going to show you how good I am. But he didn't pick no team that won 3 games. He picked a team that, one was in the South where it would be warm, and he also picked a team that had a lot of talent on the offensive side of football. All I know is that Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and Cameron Brate and Ronald Jones, they were on the team before Brady got there. And he was just able to lift that football club despite, him getting up in age. And he may not be as good as he was at 25, but who the hell is?
Right.
That guy is still a special football player. Still a special football player. And so for me, my thing is just watch the first 2 games and see what happened and how the Saints sort of collapsed the inside pocket on him, and it made him very uncomfortable. He does a lot like any quarterback when you get up in age. Peyton Manning told me this, maybe 4 years ago. People were talking about arm strength and you lose your arm. And he's like, man, no, don't tell me none of that. He said, you know what you lose and it's time to go? Your legs. You can't get away from pressure anymore. And he said, at the end, he said, I couldn't really throw the football really well. But the real problem was when they got pressure on me, I couldn't get away from it. And you look at Brady today, man, you give him a clean pocket, which they did last week for the most part. Now, they got a couple of sacks on him, but especially once their right guard went down, you saw and the Saints are going to attack that area, and I would too, that he does not like pressure around him. He just doesn't because he can't get away. And he never was a guy that was a runner anyway, but he was a sidestepper is what I would call him more than anything else. Now that sidestep is a little bit slower. So, hey, you got to get pressure on him, stop the run. I'll never forget the first game. Abear and I are talking right before halftime. And he's like, how many rushes does this team have? And I said, Bob, I got more fingers than they got rushes. And he's like, something's going on. No, Arians just unplugged it and said, hey, we're not going to run it. And I think it would have ended up being 5 rushes the entire game. My God, you're not beating anybody rushing the football 5 times in a football game. And so my thing is where I think the Saints have the big check mark is on the sidelines with Sean Payton going up against Bruce Arians. Nothing against Bruce, but my thing is, come on, if you had one game to win and you wanted a coach, who would you pick, Sean Payton or Bruce Arians?
That's an easy choice.
It's easy. And so if Richie Pettibone, I never forget him telling me this. He was like, man, Mike, all those years I was a defensive coordinator with the Redskins, and, we had to get out of the NFC East. So he says, we got Parcells and Belichick and all coaching on the other side with the Giants. And he says, Dallas, which had gotten really bad, then all of a sudden they got Jimmy Johnson and that crew. That's what we got to look at. And with the Eagles, that Buddy Ryan and that defense and Randall Cunningham, he said, we were just happy to get out of the NFC East. But he says, come playoff time, the big thing is once the talent level is close, coaching always matters, but it really matters come playoff time. That's when he said, it's kind of separate the men from the boys. When you can coach on playoff weekend with pressures and everything coming at you, and the reality of it is there's no makeup game next week. If we lose, we go home. So he said, man, that's why he said, I think Joe Gibbs, and he would always tell me, I think he's one of the four greatest head coaches of all time, of what he did with different teams, different quarterbacks, and we still won. And look what we had to get through to get out of the NFC East back then.
Yeah.
It wasn't no chopped liver. You were having to go through a pretty strong line to get to where you went to, and Gibbs was able to do it. So in that part, that's why, again, I like the Saints. I think they're close personnel-wise, talent-wise. But I would take Sean in that type of game up against Arians. And I do think it's in the back of your head a little bit. If you're the Bucs, man, we've had some difficulties against this team. We really have.
Hendrickson didn't play last week. He's on the injury report now, is limited. What's the expectation there with Hendrickson? And if he doesn't go, how much of an impact does that have?
Well, he's in the head of Donovan Smith is all I can tell you.
Yeah.
Listen, when you got a guy that has beaten you like he has the last two games, I'm just telling you, it's rolling in there that, he's doing something that's getting the best of me. And it showed up. Donovan, they spun him around like a top. Hendrickson, if he played him 16 games, he'd have like 30 sacks, for the year. The way Smith matches up. And I can't explain why, but it does happen in matchups. I remember years ago talking to Willie Rofe, and he had told me that, a tough match for him was always Chuck Smith with Atlanta. And he said, man, it was just his techniques, his speed, the way he got around me. And he said, man, I think one game he gave up like 3 sacks up against Chuck. Now, this is Willie Rofe.
Right.
And he was like, man, he just got the best of me. And he said, I shut him out the next game. But he said, everybody want to talk to me about the time I give up 3 sacks to Chuck. But he said he was a difficult matchup because of his technical skills and his speed. And you look at Trey, for whatever reason, he has matched up really well against Donovan. And he had a difficult time. And yet last week, Chase Young, I thought he did a real good job with him on that spot. Now, in game 2, he did not have Ali Marpet to sort of help out, because sometimes when you got a guy like him, it helps you out a little bit. So it's a tough matchup, but again, I think the big thing is to watch what happens inside now. Without Kappa on the other side at the right guard position, if I'm the Saints, I'm going to attack there and try to collapse that pocket right from the middle and try to get after him right up the middle and not let Brady be able to step up and then throw from the launch pad.
Mike, the other thing defensively that might have changed a bit, and look, the second meeting, Antonio Brown was there for the Bucs, but nothing really worked for Tampa that day. How does that matchup work now with the Saints secondary against those receivers? Understanding, man, Lattimore has dominated Mike Evans. We know that, but I'm more looking at, okay, what about Godwin? What about AB there now as well?
Well, you're going to kind of have to pick and choose with Jenkins. You're going to give him some help over the top. I would think that you're not going to leave him out on an island with Antonio one-on-one all the time. And, you're going to need a little bit of help there. And, man, we remember back in 2018 when the Saints played Pittsburgh, Antonio Brown in that game. Now, the Saints ended up winning. I think it was 31-28. But Antonio Brown in that game caught 14 passes. And he did it up against Lattimore for the most part. He spun him around like a top. Yeah, I like the situation with Evans and Lattimore because we know the past that Evans has really struggled in that particular area. With Jenkins, you understand that from time to time you're going to have to give him a little bit of help with Antonio because now you see that Brady is looking for him. I think he trusts. I know where he's going to be out on the field all the time, and that's where I'm going to go. And if they spread you out 3 wide receivers and you got Godwin, and Evans and Brown, you're going to have to pick your poison there and take your shot. That's where pressure is going to be paramount, because you're going to have to do this. Pressure breaks the pipe. That if I can get him from sitting back there and throwing the darts, I may have him throw the ball a little bit quicker than he wants to. Not that he's running away from anybody, because if he starts to run, then I got him right where I want him, Brady, because he ain't running too far without somebody catching him. So, again, you're going to kind of have to pick and choose what you want to do there when you line up against Antonio Brown, and how you're going to be able to match up against him. But first things first, Matt, and while we're talking about all this, is last week was one of the few times I saw Arians commit to the running game with Leonard.
This was my next question, was about Fournette.
And so my thing is, I'm not letting that start up. And it just reminds me of Ryan Nielsen all the time, because, since he's been with the Saints since 2017, he's always come to our Louisiana line camp, and we sit down and talk, and then we'll have a conversation, and then we do an interview. So the interview part of it, he'll always ask me, don't ask me about a pass rush first. He said, always ask me about stopping the run. He said, because that's paramount. And every time we talk, he always brings that up about, hey, listen, remember, it's all about stopping the run first. And so if he's telling me that, he's also telling that to the players, that, hey, listen, we can't let Leonard Fournette go off on us. We got to stop the run for us. And you know what? If Brady's the guy to beat us, so be it. But we're not going to get beat up by having a running back sort of take control of this football game and giving them some balance. And he's always brought up, listen, I think we can scheme different things to get and help a pass rush out at times. And I really believe that first and foremost is you do not want a Fournette, or I don't know if Ronald Jones is going to play or not. I know he was at practice, but he's been beat up the end of season. He's sort of taken a pretty good beating.
Yeah.
That you got to stop the run. You got to be able to stop the run. And I think then from there, that's when you can really get after it. Now, the second game, you didn't have to worry about it. Arians didn't even try.
Right.
I mean, he unplugged that almost from the start to the finish, and it was 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. Okay, you can't put your defense back on the field like that constantly. And the Bucs didn't get much of a pass rush against Brees.
Mike, I've been asking you almost exclusively about the Saints defense and how it matches up against that Tampa offense, because I've always just resigned myself to understand the Saints are going to be able to move the ball against this Tampa defense. Is there any spot where you look and go, okay, that could be the bugaboo on Sunday where maybe Tampa defensively does something that slows the Saints offense?
Well, it would be to go up against Cesar Ruiz because, again, the rookie, and he was beat out by Nick Easton, and then Nick got lost for the season with the concussion issues. So you understand teams are going to try to attack the weakest link in the chain. And if you look up front, it's Ruiz. I mean, they're going to go after him. The other part, too, is the depth at the running back position, because now, Latavius Murray not practicing. He was a guy that gave you a nice 1-2 tandem with Kamara, and he was a really good blitz pickup guy, too. I mean, he was a guy that could pick that up extremely well. And the Bucs are just not going to kind of sit in coverage. They did it last week. For a little while, and they said, man, this Taylor dude, we got enough of him. We got to go after him, and so they went after Henke pretty good toward the end of that game, but early on, they just sat back in coverage. They're not going to do that with Drew. They're going to come after him. And so I don't know what's going to happen with Latavius Murray, but I do know one thing. He gives you a power element, and he gives you a blitz pickup element that is really good. And now, Taysom's dealt with the concussion. Now he's dealing with the knee injury. And so that limits you a little bit if both guys can't, answer the bell. We'll see, because today is Thursday. You got a couple more days. Hopefully they'll be able to come back from it. But it's you don't have a power back like Murray, okay, in the garage. Okay? Mm-hmm. The guys you got aren't built like him. And you lose that when he's not in the lineup.
Do we know any update there, Mike, if he might? I mean, I'm looking at today's injury. So he did not practice again today. So I mean, is
If
there?
you don't practice tomorrow, that's
Yeah.
it. He ain't going to play.
Yeah.
And with Taysom, on the one run, almost looked like he was sluggish, didn't he?
Yeah.
When he banged up the knee, it was like, man, listen, I even got a wife who knows very little about football. She was like, he's not as fast as he used to be. I said, no, he got hurt. He hurt his knee. But I don't want to explain nothing during the game because, that's distracting to me. So whatever. It's one of those type of deals. But yeah, you get it that if you don't have either one, man, that's really tough. Because again, that's where you're getting your power game from. You're getting it from Murray and certainly that power running attack with Taysom, especially in the red zone, short yardage. Man, that has worked out great for the Saints. So again, tomorrow's going to be the telltale sign. It really will.
Mike, let's take a look at the rest of the divisional round playoffs. Let's start with the game that's going to take place up at Lambeau of the other half of the NFC playoffs, with Green Bay coming off the bye, taking on the Rams, who were a little bit of a surprise winner last week in Seattle.
Let me just say, my money was on the Rams, but I can draw a fine line in the sand. I thought Seattle would have been a much easier matchup. You can see the flaws in Seattle. They're not good up front along the offensive and defensive line. Wilson's got to carry all the weight across the board. They got to hit the big plays to beat you. And so while I'm thrilled on one end, I'm not necessarily thrilled on the other. Right. No, I think the Rams give the Saints the worst of the matchups. And I can't tell you why. It's just the way they played them. And McVay going up against Sean, that square off has, listen, the Rams have won every bit as much as the Saints have. And you just think about that their offensive and defensive lines now, especially with Whitworth back, gives them a shot. But I will say this, when you look at Packers, Rams, the big advantage is in one spot.
Quarterback.
Okay, you got one game. You want Jared Goff or you want Aaron Rodgers?
Mike, Jared Goff with a good thumb wasn't very good.
What? I don't even use the term good. No, he's an above-average quarterback in this league. But he ain't setting the world afire by any stretch. Mm. Now, I will say this, man, I thought about LSU watching Cam Akers run the football, because you talk about dominoes that were hitting, and Deuce McAllister and I were talking about, Cam was the guy Les really wanted to come here. He was a quarterback in high school, and they did everything to try to get him here, and at the end, he goes to Florida State. But when he did that, Travis Etienne, was, man, y'all slighted me. One thing is bad in life. Somebody slights you one time, you remember that for the rest of your life. Yep. So he goes to Clemson. But LSU figured out pretty good, didn't he?
It worked
out. He ended up with Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
It seemed to work out.
It worked out pretty good.
It worked out pretty good. So do you give the Rams much of a chance going to Green Bay to win?
I think they got a shot because of their physicality and because of the fact Bakateri not being in the lineup at that left tackle position. I'm going after that guy. Yeah. And I don't know how hurt or how not hurt Aaron Donald is. All I know is he was a bad man out on that field Saturday. I mean, he was taking people and he was shoving them, man, until he got hurt. He was dominating, and when that happens, okay, all of a sudden, you get on the sidelines and it's like, okay, we got to double team him. That opened up everything for everybody else. And you could see Russell Wilson kind of was eyeing him. Here he comes again. So that matchup in the trenches, to me, is going to be interesting. Because if the Rams got to get pressure on Rodgers. If not, man, they're gonna stoke them up points-wise. And they can run the football. That's the one thing with Matt LaFleur. And knowing him a little bit because of the fact, and doing work for the Tennessee Titans radio network, Matt was there. And he was the guy that said, what are we doing with Derrick Henry? We got to run him. The football's not heavy. Keep giving him the ball. Why are we just giving it to him 12, 13 times in a game? Come on, let's bang away with Henry. And Arthur Smith now has taken over, and he's kind of up the ante even more than what LaFleur did. But when you got the horses that he got in the backfield with Aaron Jones and Dillon, man, you can do that well. And when he needs a play, Man, he got a tight end that can catch the ball, and he got a receiver in Devontae Adams. Now, Jalen Ramsey up against Devontae should be interesting. But again, this comes down to you got to have some semblance of quarterback play here. And in my opinion, Rodgers is way ahead of the game as far as golf is concerned. And we'll see how, now, weather-wise, I've heard conflicting reports, but, the Rams ain't used to playing in any kind of really bad weather.
Sure.
You don't catch that in L.A., well, not that kind of cold weather, put it to you that way. And not that all those guys from Green Bay are from there, but they're more used to it than you are.
Yeah. Mike, flip it over to the AFC real quick. Ravens at Bills. A lot of people circling this one as the one that's the potential upset looming this weekend.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think you got a hot quarterback in Josh Allen. Lamar sort of got that off of his back of not being able to win. And, man, and he really was the difference in that game against the Titans.
Yeah.
Watching it, it's like, come on, you can't let him run the ball. And then when he takes off, I knew one thing, ain't nobody on that Titan secondary is going to catch him out in the open field. He was the difference in that football game. The Bills aren't great up front, but I think their back seven is really good, very athletic, and they can match up with the receiving core of the Ravens. I think in a tight game, you know what? I think the Bills win this. Josh is really playing well, and he gives you a threat as a big man running the football. Now, he does not have the speed, well, no one does, of Lamar, but he gives you that threat. And they sort of beat you up a little bit, and then Stephon Diggs, the Colts are still trying to cover him. I think this is a tight football game, but I've always felt the divisional round is the best 4 games you're going to see. And I think you're going to see it here where I think the Bills got a legitimate shot here against the Ravens. I really think they can pull off the win.
What about the other one in the AFC, Cleveland, after the upset of Pittsburgh on the road? Now they go to Kansas City, and Kansas City's a 10-point favorite.
I like the 10 points, but I like the Chiefs to win.
Gotcha.
Man, that's a lot of points. Give me that 10. The Browns can run the ball, and they got a tandem that can pound away. And with the Chiefs, now they did stop the Saints running the ball, but they didn't stop a lot of teams from doing it. So, you know what? I think the Browns can keep this fairly close, but, man, at the end, I'm not going against Mahomes. I think the Chiefs win this, but I think the Browns give them a tussle. Because of their ability to run the football, they play real physical up front along the defensive line. You don't get a lot of shots at Mahomes, but isn't he sort of almost like an old car? Man, you put the key in, you crank, it doesn't start up real good. And once you get it started, then it rolls good. But, man, they've got off to some sloppy starts. I know before the Saints game, that was the big complaint in Kansas City was, man, we're going to lose some games this year if we keep playing bad in the first quarter or so. And yet that really wasn't the case. You lost 2 games, when the last one was kind of a throwaway game, but still, this is a football team, talented. You got your stars healthy. And looks like Clyde might have a shot to play. I'm going with Andy Reid here. The rookie head coach, he's great, and they may be able to keep it within 10 because of the fact they can run the football, and they play pretty well against the run. But, man, give me Mahomes any day of the week.
Mike D, let's start those Saints, Bucks, round 3. How goes it?
I'm going to say 30-27 Saints.
All right, close ball game, a field goal ball game. So is Will Lutz the Saints kicker on Sunday?
Yeah, I think he is. Just hoping that man, listen, kick it, kid. He's had some technical issues, and we've got him, even Martin Anderson talk about it, that somewhat how he faces the ball is why he is pushing it. And he said it's very fixable, but he said, you saw the one he missed. I mean, as soon as he hit it, he turned.
Yeah.
He knew he had missed it. As soon as he touched it, he knew he had missed it. Almost like I've seen him at times. As soon as he hits it, he walks away. He knew it was going through. So, man, he got to come play big. Listen, you can't mess up now. Yeah. It's too late in the season.
Your questions for Mike, you know how to get them. You can tweet me at Matt Moscona at 1045ESPN. You can email Matt at 1045ESPN.com or jump in the Bayou Forward YouTube chat to get your questions in on the Watch 1045 ESPN YouTube channel. Here's one from Glenn. It says, ask Mike, when the season is over and Brees supposedly retires, how long do you think Sean Payton remains with the Saints?
Sean has always said he's not a lifer in this business, but it's a different Sean from when he made that comment the first time. So I think Sean's going to coach a few more years. I think he enjoys the game, and he enjoys the wins. You know, and you can see how he is in the locker room. He's different with reporters today than in years past, and how he deals with things. We see it even on our coaches show when we have him on Mondays. He's different, and he's enjoying it more. He'd enjoy it more if they won another Super Bowl, but I still believe that Sean's got a few more years of coaching left to him. And you know what? There's a little bit of something that tells me I'm going to prove I can win without Drew.
Interesting. Mark Shelton on Twitter asked Mike, has Marcus Davenport done enough on the field to get that fifth-year option picked up?
I think he gets the fifth-year option picked up.
Okay.
Because I think it's going to be difficult to sign Trey Hendrickson. I think now, man, financially, he may have put himself in an area where the Saints are not going to be able to go.
That was going to be my next question. Well, that'll be something worth watching this offseason.
So now Carl Granderson's got to step it up.
Right.
You know, Carl's got to be the guy. And, man, all I'm telling you is from Ryan Nielsen to Sean Payton, they have praised Carl Granderson. They think he could turn out to be a really good player, too.
Speaking of Ryan Nielsen, Mike, here's one on Twitter from Rob who said, ask Mike D.
I knew this was coming.
All right, what do you think? Ryan Nielsen, the next LSU DC?
I think that's a pretty good shot of that. You know, I said his name right off the bat. I know the relationship between him and Coach Payton, him and Coach O. And, you know, it's almost time that, you know, Ryan's been a defensive line coach with the Saints, and I think he has aspirations to be a head coach one day in college. And so I think he takes his shot here. Now, I don't know what goes on behind the scenes with everything. I think the most important hire for O was to get that offensive coordinator and get that thing straightened out. And I think you read between the lines, he's saying, well, I'm willing to wait it out. Okay, isn't he sort of telling you without telling you? But listen, Ryan's a hell of a coach. Now, his demeanor is nothing like Coach O, but, man, he is high energy, and he get on your behind if you mess up. He ain't afraid to get on you. Now, he does it in a different manner, and you can understand Ryan a little bit better when he's jumping you.
That was Mike Detillier who said it, not me, everybody. All right? I don't want your hate email.
No. All I know is, you know, because I've been around for a long, long time, when he starts to get excited and it starts to jumble out of there, so they know they're getting jumped. But sometimes the words is maybe a little bit not quite understandable. But you do know one thing: you're getting a good rear eating.
Yeah. All right, let's get a few more. We got about 3 minutes left. Greg said, "Ask Mike, what position you think the Saints take in the first round of the draft?"
Well, it would depend on what you would do in free agency. But I think this team has to look at a cornerback. I just think the game is becoming more and more that you got to be able to match up. Janoris Jenkins isn't getting younger. Patrick Robinson, way up in age. To me, cornerback would seem to be an area that I would take a really, really long look at.
Scooter asked Mike, odds of pursuing Taylor Heineke. How about that? One game and everybody wants Taylor Heineke.
Well, if I'm looking for a third-string quarterback, I might look that way. But God bless him, though. You know, man, listen, he's the type of guy you pull for, but you know, after a period of time, he understands his spot in this world, but he did really well. But no, Taylor, he's I think going to stay in Washington.
Andrew Brister asked Mike, will Traquan Smith return this week?
It's a possibility, and they've been hoping that he can come back. And what Traquan brings to the table, he's a really good downfield blocker, maybe their best downfield blocker. And he's a tough guy to go over the middle. Now, he got to catch the ball more securely, and he's gotten better this year. But that's going to be a medical decision, and we will know a lot more about these medicals tomorrow.
Couple of more from Mike Detillier. Ask Mike, would you like the Saints to draft a quarterback in this upcoming draft?
Yes, I would.
Okay. Ask Mike, given their need on the O-line, do you think the Bengals would draft Jamar Chase or Penei Sewell?
Well, I'm going to go here with this. Man, if I have a chance to pick a really talented big man or a really talented smaller guy, I go with the big man.
Understood.
Yeah, because, man, I got to keep Joe Burrow upright.
Yep.
I mean, listen, I'd love to have Jamar, but if it comes down to that, I got to have me somebody that can block for him. He was getting killed until he went down to the injury. My goodness. No, I would if an offensive lineman is in the same zip code as Jamar and I'm the Bengals, I know where my money's at. It's on Joe Burrow. I got to protect him.
Ask Mike, it is from Daniel, is Ryan Nielsen a good defensive play caller?
Well, he's done it at a smaller college level, but I think he's, we didn't know anything about Joe Brady, did we? And so you got to be giving someone a chance. And I think he can be a really good play caller. He's learned a lot under Dennis Allen. He's been involved in multiple defenses. In essence, what you see today, people make a big thing about 4-3, 3-4. No, it's all hybrid. It's all nickel dime. And so you need a little bit of experience there. And isn't that what you see in the pros today?
Yeah.
You see a ton of nickel, a lot of dime coverage, a lot of 3-4 sets, and then his 4-3 sets. So that pro experience really helped Ryan out. Now, I think he would do a really good job, really do. And, man, listen, he's a very smart guy, and even more so, I'm going to tell you, that dude can recruit. Unbelievable recruiter.
Well, we might get to find out, hopefully, Mike, not for another month or so. SaintsReport.com, MikeDetillier.com, Saints News Network over at SI.com, of course, on Twitter, at Mike Detillier, and with us every Thursday. Mike D, you're the best. Appreciate you as always, man.
Thank you, Matthew.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.